topic. When we speak of women, we always want to know how far have women achieved to gain their rights and maintain or preserve their rights, if I may say, on different aspects. Well, today in Egypt, women are contributing to much more than they were in the previous years. I mean, if we're going to talk about the contribution of women in the parliament, in the cabinet, in civil societies, but with the help of NGOs, with the help of unions and federations for women, all the problems of women across the country can be able to be achieved. Not only that, but the challenges that women are facing in rural areas, in Upper Egypt, illiteracy, combating poverty, and so much more. Today we're going to talk about that and where women stand today and how, through the eyes of our very special guest, she perceives women today in Egypt right after this short break. Welcome back again to the hot seat, and I'm very much delighted to have joining me in this exclusive interview Dr. Hoda Badran, who is the president of the Egyptian Feminist Union, and she is also the Secretary General of the Arab Women Federation. Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you.
It's very interesting to interview someone very prominent like you, who's been working for very long years, regarding women and, solving women problem in Egypt. And tell us a little bit first about both the union and the federation's roles and goals and aims.
Okay. I'm glad you are posing that question.
Okay.
Because both of them, they are old, they have history, and still they are new. Let's start by the Egyptian Feminist Union. The Egyptian Feminist Union was established by Hoda Sha'rawi. You know, when you say Hoda Sha'rawi, that's a name just in the Arab region, but all over. Even in Europe, in the States, they know that a very prominent woman called Hoda Sha'rawi have started the Egyptian and the Arab movement in our region. So Hoda Sha'rawi started the Egyptian Feminist Union in 1923. And that was while we were colonized by the British. And she was much occupied, not just by feminine issues, but also she was politically oriented. That's why when she noticed that Egypt is taking a stand against being colonized by the British, she thought that women also should take a stand against such colonization. So I remember there was a big demonstration that she was heading against the British. And as a matter of fact, the British has shot one of the women demonstrators at that time. And feeling that there must be an NGO that cares for women's issues, so she established the Egyptian Feminist Union in 1923. Unfortunately, after the 1952 revolution, it was kind of frozen for a while. Then when the latest revolution in January 25th in Egypt, we thought, a group of NGOs thought that we had to organize ourselves and we have to re-establish the Egyptian Feminist Union. Since then, the union was occupied with so many activities. Actually, we helped in saying yes to the Constitution. There was something here about yes to the Constitution. And we also helped in the election of the President, Sisi. And we have helped in getting the roadmap going on and democracy. We are working in, we have about 300 NGOs who are members in the union. And we organize their work, we upgrade their services, and we make studies, research, conferences, we discuss issues. Nowadays we are occupied by economic empowerment of women. And we are also caring for children and youth. We work with different organizations.
Yes.
This is for the Egyptian Feminist Union. About the federation works on the Arab region level. And this was also established by Hoda Sha'rawi. a little bit after the Egyptian Feminist Union, Hoda Sha'arawi in 1944. She established the Arab Federation for Arab Women, and many Arab countries are members in that. Each member is, a matter of fact, it's a union. It's an NGO, and it's a women union in itself. So we have 22 countries who are members in our Arab Women Federation.
Yes, that's very interesting because you see giant steps taken throughout the years and different generations towards women rights and having their voices heard. Not only that, but also adding to the development of Egypt, whether economically or politically. I'm glad you mentioned President Assisi's, how you've empowered women and helped them to, go for voting and, voting for a yes of the Constitution. President Assisi also many times have spoken about women, the role of women. Actually, this year is dedicated to women.
That's true.
Tell us a little bit about how you see that role and declaration by the President of Egypt towards women.
We were very pleased to hear him. That happened while he was meeting the staff of the National Council for Women for the first time. That was last year. And he said that, like what he has done in relation to youth, so last year was the year for youth. And as we remember, he has met with youth several times, and he discussed issues that relate to youth. So this year, in comparison, this is the year for women. And he said that women should expect a surprise. And when he said that, I assume that it's a positive surprise. I don't know exactly what he has in mind.
What do you think? What do you think would be the surprise? Possibly having also a monthly conference for women where, we can share women problems, try to help them, especially women in rural areas and in Upper Egypt. Is that something along the surprise that you're expecting, or what kind of surprise?
I would expect more.
Yes.
I personally, if he would ask me that, what do you think? Should I take decisions in relation to women's issues? I'll ask for two things. I would ask him that whenever there is a committee or a mechanism or a new cabinet, that he would put at least 1/3 of membership women in these mechanisms. Because until now, the cabinet, we have only 4 ministers in the cabinet. In any committees, we don't see as many women as we should see.
Speaking of the parliament and the cabinet as well, where we see women are, maybe they're not up to the expectation of women in terms of the number of participation, but they are participating definitely better than they were in previous eras in Egypt. So if I were to ask you about how you do, personally evaluate the current performance of women in ministries and in the parliament, are the voices being heard, are the decisions taken into consideration? Women usually would face obstacles wherever they go, especially if they are women with potentials, in a man-dominated society like the Arab region in general. So how do you see the participation of women today in certain political fields?
Well, I believe women have been really performing the role in a high standard level. If I see the 4 ministers who are taking seats in the cabinet, each of them is really is doing a good job. When we see the Ministry of International Cooperation, the minister there has been involved and shows the dynamo in getting this structural adjustment project going on. Ghada Wali is carrying also a lot of projects on her shoulders. The Minister for Immigration, I think she has been doing very good positive steps in creating relationships with Egyptians in many foreign countries. And then we have the last one, who is the Minister of Investment. I can't really evaluate her until now, but many people say good words about her. So I am very glad that the 4 ministers are really performing well, and this should be a very good indicator that as I know, that there is a new cabinet that is being getting now to
Ready, yes.
to replace the one that's existing. I hope that at least 1/3 of this new cabinet would be forward.
Yes, let's hope so, of course. But if we're talking about how much there have been advancement for women's rights in Egypt, and not just on the educational level, on employment level, leading roles, but let's talk a little bit about the simple women in Egypt, the housewives, if we might say, those living in rural areas, those living in Upper Egypt, for instance. You know, the kind of women that would have a lot of civil rights that, you know, they might be struggling with. Do you think that today women are, in terms of society, earning their fair civil rights, or do we still have a lot of steps, you know, to achieve before we can say we've reached that success?
I think there has been some changes. And if I compare the simple women, as you say, maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, definitely there have been some positive changes. Take education. Enrollment in schools, particularly basic education, it has increased to a great extent. Not in university or high school maybe, because there's still dropouts. But definitely in basic education, girls' education have improved in the rural areas as well as in the urban areas. If you look to health, for example, life expectancy have increased for rural and urban. But women still really suffer from new diseases like cancer of the breast, like there are new illnesses. I'm not a doctor, but I know.
There are awareness campaigns that are trying to help raise awareness for women about
civil rights,
such
as you
things.
said. Yeah, there is more awareness than it used to be, and you can see, for example, the women who went out to vote. Yes. This didn't happen.
And violence against women also. There is a campaign on
and
that.
Violence against women has been decreasing, actually. But I would say that we still have a way to go in order that the culture itself. Culture is not that easy to change, and when culture mixes with religion, and when you find that religion address is really against women, that affects the simple women. Many of them are illiterate. They the older ones, they didn't go to school. They are still illiterate, and they depend on fatawi from religious people. Religious people, it's not Islam, it's not religion, but it's the power they feel over women, that they try to really marginalize them by their fatawi and their address in the mosque and so on. So, generally speaking, I think simple women still have a way to go, as I say. They have to feel that they are equal. There isn't that feeling. They feel that, we have in religion the concept of kawama. They take kawama as men are superior than women, although actually it doesn't mean that. Kawama means that a man should serve women at home and outside also. But the religious address is really responsible.
The perception and the vision of women, how men perceive women, how society perceives women, definitely. And that's why I want to take this advantage. I know that it's still a bit early, but March, next month, is the month of women. There's so many events. There's the International Women's Day, there's the Egyptian Women's Day, there's Mother's Day. So it is a month, and it is significant because, as we spoke briefly before the interview, you were telling me about the significance of those days. There is a reason, there is history behind why they chose International Day for Women, why they chose Egyptian Women's Day. Tell us about, through such celebrations of days, what can be an added value to women's rights, generally speaking?
And I'll tell you, for example, the Egyptian Feminist Union is celebrating, having a big conference, and it is under the auspices of the president, and it is for the occasion of Egyptian women had already 60 years since they got their political rights. They have been in parliament you know, in different sizes. At time, they were only 2%. Now they are about 12% or something like that. I'm talking about just size, never mind the quality of those who are being in. So this is a big event. The event would be used to really emphasize that we had now, even without, we have, because now we have the quota. That's why we have 89 women in the parliament. But the idea or the message that we want to get to the society, that women can play the role of an MP just exactly like men. And when we look at the parliament now, some people tell me that, see, the women MPs are not really performing that well. But I would answer also, are the men performing that well?
Maybe also, what is the scale? What is the scale of the performance? I mean, on what basis do you consider a good performance from a bad performance? I mean, because it sounds from where I'm sitting that it's just because she's a woman, that means that she's automatically not going to be any of any value addition or any success, right? So there's still that sense of, when you're speaking about women in certain jobs, that you're a woman, and it's not about the potentials, it's not about your educational degree, it's the fact that you're created as a woman or a female. Do you get that?
I know, and that puts on the shoulders of women, and particularly when women are in high positions, society demands from her more than what society demands from men. And she should feel that she is a pioneer. She is opening the door for others. That's why, of course, and I would like women MPs to even play a stronger role than that. But the problem is that it depends also on the institution itself, on the context that you are playing your role in. So they are not taking the opportunity, really. And for example, many parliament abroad, they have a women committee in the parliament. Our Egyptian parliament don't have a women committee. If they had a women committee, they would organize themselves as a group. And when you are acting as a group, you are much more stronger than when you are acting as an individual. So we don't see them now when there is a problem. And I expected, if I were in the parliament, I would organize my colleagues to take a stand to support Anwar Sadat. Anwar Sadat has been vocal. He has been a critical one. And that is demanded. This is needed in our country in order to be critical. Our MPs, nobody, none of them have opened her mouth backing Anwar Sadat. It should happen. Of course, never mind men. Men also, that's why I'm saying the low-level performance is from both men and women.
I'm glad that you're speaking of performance, because that also brings to my mind the question of youth and how women youth can play a more active role in supporting the NGOs or contributing and cooperating with the NGOs to be able to help the rest of the women. See, everybody's so busy with their own fields and their own, little area that they know where to play well at. And as you said, because when you speak of working as a group, is going to make you definitely echo more than if you work on your own. So today, young women, where are they from the role that they should be playing in their society to support each other, as a concept?
That's a very good question. I would say that it's difficult to talk about women, either youth or grown-ups, as one group. There are subgroups within the one group. I find recently, very unfortunately, that some of the upper middle class youth, after they have finished their university, they don't want to work. And the idea is, well, my family is well-to-do enough and we don't need the money. Although my generation, although we were well-to-do, but we thought work is in itself is a value.
Yeah, you reach your identity, find yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think they find a husband, then that's a different case.
Exactly. They found a wealthy husband, and that's it. But on the other hand, you would find some other group of youth where they are really looking for work, And when they get themselves, and particularly in the private sector, and because as you know now, the government is not employing numbers of neither men nor women as many as they should. So they are fighting to get into the private sector, which is a very good remark and indicator that women have the awareness that work is important in itself. So you cannot generalize really about all the women.
Since you can't generalize all the women, I mean, have you noticed that there are actually two types of women here in Egypt? There's, as you said, and it's usually the socio-economic status in the society that determines which type of women you are. I mean, if you're the middle upper class society type of women, then you'd have different interests, whether it is wanting to continue with the job or finding a proper husband or not. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is that they live in a different world than the ordinary women, those who graduate, who work while they are still students to try to help their families, who even get married and still make a family and make it to a harsh circumstances of life. And it's like those two types of women are not even connected, although they live in the same country. Is that normal in any other society, or is it only here in Egypt?
What you are saying is very true. Unfortunately, you feel that Egypt is not totally connected now. There are two Egypts or more now, not just in terms of women, but even in terms of children. You find children who are going to special schools who are being taught in English or in French or in German. They are so much connected with the outside world. They are so much with the mobiles and the computer and the iPad and all that. And you find some other children who are living in the slums, and some of them dropped from school, some of them in poverty groups where their father is unemployed and their mother is the head of the family. As you probably know,
yes,
we have now a large size of families. They are headed by women. So this isn't children. Also, if you look at women as youth, you find those upper middle and upper class women. If you look at the weddings, of course they look for a wealthy husband. They have weddings where I heard, I'm not sure, that they imported food from abroad to that extent. And they have photos for the wedding by helicopter from air, something that we have never heard about. When they get children, they get maids from Indonesia, from Sri Lanka, and so on. They don't feel humble enough to hire an Egyptian maid even or nanny. So this is a group by themselves. And then you find the other group, whom some of them, as I say, find a humble job. Some of them are still looking for a job, they can't find it. And they are, trying hard to get their children into schools, which they don't have to pay that much money for them. They are not members of high-class social clubs, like Gezira and Heliopolis and all that.
Yes, but at the end of the day, I mean, whether you come from that type of women's society or the other, you're women, and I'm sure they all have equal rights, and that maybe if they do sit together and have a common goal, then they'll be able to reach their destination. I'm really thankful very much for this lovely interview. Our time flew up so quickly. There was definitely so much we needed to talk with you about. I hope that we'd be able to continue that on future episodes. Thank you very much, Dr. Hoda Badran, who is the President of the Egyptian Feminist Union and the Secretary General of the Arab Women Federation. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for the interview. Thank you for the interest of the media in women's issues.
This brings us to the end of our episode of The Hot Seat for this week. Thank you very much for watching.